Hey, it's Hutch from Hutch High Perf. Welcome back. Got my high tack. Let's get going. So I oiled the chain again before I put the cover on just to make sure it's good and soaked. So we're going to use a little Eastwood pre-painting prep and just clean up our gasket surface. Make sure everything goes on is clean. Yeah, that's what you get from just sitting around in the garage for a while. Was clean. It'll be clean again. Now if you can notice it, at the top around the coolant passages for the water pump, it is slightly corroded. Slightly is probably an understatement, but yeah, so I'm gonna see if I can't get something on that. There. Get something on that because it's pitted, and I don't know if that was from a leak that had been going for a long time, but it had corroded right around. This one isn't as bad as this side. This one's almost the whole way around. So what I'm worried about is when the gasket goes on, there could be some small little channel that the gasket is not covering that could precipitate a leak on the outside. So I just want to make sure that this area is sealed off so it's not an issue. So I think what I'm going to do is use a little silicone on that. So here's how I think I handle that. I'm going to take a little dab of silicone. I'm going to go around, and this is just a tiniest bit. What I'm trying to do is just fill in where the corrosion pits are. Nothing extravagant. I don't want it like just blobbed on there because it's all just going to come back out. I just literally want to film. I want enough to fill in those crevices so I know that when the gasket goes down, it's just sealing against a flat surface and there's no chance of coolant coming out. There we go. I think that ought to do it. It's like Brill cream. It's before my time, but the advertisement was just a dab will do you. And that's all you need here. I just need enough to kind of fill in those spots so I know that when the gasket goes on, it's going to have a nice clean surface to be able to mate to. In fact, the corrosion was so bad, the front cover, I had to buy another front cover. I tried cleaning up the one that I had and it was just really rough. And I was just looking at all the corrosion in the water pump area, and I was just wondering whether that was going to be able to seal once I put it together if I used it. And I just decided to cut my losses on that and bit the bullet and got a new front cover. Glad I did, because especially with all the front pulleys and everything that goes on this, and then this is leaking from the gasket out here and it's leaking coolant. That's a pain to have to strip the whole front down. Balancer's got to come off. Now you've interrupted the seal on the oil pan. It's just Nobody wants that. So, yeah, so this will do. Make sure there's none in the passages. All right, I'm actually going to let that set up just a little bit. Let it get just a little bit past where it is. I want it to solidify just a tiny bit, so we're not squeezing that. We're actually pressing on it like it's part of the surface. That way, when we put the gasket on, we don't have to worry about it. I feel better that way. Okay, after a couple minutes to let it set up, get taggy. Let's go ahead and pop that in place. Make sure all my bolt holes are lined up correctly. All right. Make sure I got good contact with that silicone. Excellent. Okay, now we can get the front cover. All right, so like I said, I bought a brand new cover just because the one that was on there was so corroded. All right, I'll be close enough to get our bolts in. So when it comes to engine bolt kits, there's not a lot of options out there, but one of them is pretty cool. It's a place called Alloy Bolts, and I bought their hex head stainless steel 455 engine kit, and it comes everything individually packaged. As you can see, this is water pump, and everything is the nuts, the bolts, the washers, the lock washers, everything comes individually sealed, so there's no doubt where everything goes. So I'm just going to cut this one open. All we're doing is the bottom 4 bolts. Water pump isn't going on just yet. So let me crack that open. So 2 things to remember when using stainless steel bolts. You have to use an anti-seize on the threads or you'll gall the threads and good luck getting the thing back out. It becomes a mess and you don't want that. The second thing you need to remember, as soon as you crack the lid on this, if you are not careful, you will look like the Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz. This stuff gets everywhere. I don't know how it does it, but it goes everywhere. You can crack the lid on this and there's some on the back of your neck. How? But you need to be careful. I'm telling you, this goes everywhere if you're not careful. So let's get the bolts on. So the manual calls for 35 foot-pounds. I did wire wheel a couple of the original bolts, and that's just because I'm not ready to put the water pump on just yet. But I want to have the top part of this cover snug down to the front of the block, just because of that silicone that I put in there. I just want that to kind of take a seat. Just snug, have it in place. There. Those will go off when the water pump goes on. But for now, I just want the front cover to be flat. I don't want to catch the top and end up like yoking it or doing something stupid. So this just holds the thing in place. Plus it gives a good seat for that silicone that I put around the inside of that, just so it doesn't go funky on me or anything. Well, let's get it flipped upside down, and I guess we'll put on the oil pan. Same deal. First, we make sure everything is super clean before we go any further. All right, we'll start with the front cover seal. See that little center nipple? That corresponds to a hole that's right here in the front, so you can't really get it off kilter. So what I like to do is get a little bit sealer down in the corners here. And then I will put some along this front ridge. That's good. This guy goes in tight. Kind of push one side in and then roll the other. And it's quite a snug fit. There we go. And then squeeze it down from the center out. Get our ends in place. Back is the same thing. This outside edge, I like to put a bead in there, just up on that one corner. Help aid in sealing it. All right. And then the back one goes on a little easier. And there is, you can see that square channel. There's a channel down here that that plugs into. I'll put a little right here on the mating surface, right on the bottom of the block where the seal meets. There we go. I like to start on one side and get that seated down in, and kind of roll this side around and do the same thing. There we go. And then the same thing, a little bit of sealer on the top, right where the gasket's going to meet that. All right, let's go get our gasket. So if you see on the pan gasket, you can see this little tab. That fits into the rear, and there's like a little notch in the rubber seal where that fits. On the front, you've got this notch right here. That notch is where the front cover goes. So this goes in between the front cover right at the corner. So when this goes down, that notch is right in there. And since I got the nice high tack on it, I can just stick this down and it'll stay. And we come around to the back, and then that just pushes right into that little notch. And then we'll just take a little dab of silicone to make sure that that seals in. Same at the back corner, on all four sides. All right, ready for the pan. All right, let's get this down. Nice and easy so we don't disturb the gasket. All right, now we'll start tucking our bolts on. Oh, sorry about that. I had to hustle. I put everything down and I forgot, of course, anti-seize on all of these. So I had to hustle to get the anti-seize on real quick and get everything in. Probably made a little bit of a mess. Just trying to make sure that I got the thing in and down before my silicone started setting up on me. Now, if you've heard me say, when it comes to cork gaskets, I don't pay attention to any torque settings because these things are notorious for not wanting to go down right, or they're notorious for splitting, shall I say. That's a better way to put it. That little guy. I'm going to have to check that one. I'm going to have to run a tap through it. Looks like it does not want to. It threads halfway down and stops. I don't know. So I didn't chase any of these when I put them in. So that's my own fault. Let's try it again. Yeah, it gets... I might have to come back to that one and chase the threads in the block just a little bit because it doesn't want to... Gets halfway down and stops. I have to check the threads on that. Anyway... Like I was saying, I had to go around and hustle to get the anti-seize on the bolts before they went in, so whoops. You do this for so long, you can almost feel, I don't know, it's hard to say, but you get a feel for right where that line is at, between tight and too tight. When it comes to cork gaskets, you kind of end up dancing that line all the time. All right. Like I said, except for that one bolt, I'll have to find out what's going on with that. All right. Curiosity has got the best of me on this. Let's take this little bad boy and see what's going on. So I put the anti-seize on, so I know it didn't gall the threads. But I can send a tap down through that one. Let's see if it helps any. I don't see any sign of any issues with the threads on this. All right. Yeah, let's give that a try. Okay, let's see what's going on here. So I've got a tap. The hole is blind, which means it doesn't go in anything. It just dead ends to the bottom. It's not open into anything else on the other side. So I'm just going to drill it out. Not drill it out. I'm going to run the tap through it. See if there's maybe not like one damaged thread somewhere down in the bottom of that that's causing the problem. Because the bolt runs okay about halfway down and then it gets jammed. And I could probably force it, but then... You got to think about later on, what if this pan has to come off? What if it leaks? What if, God forbid, something goes wrong inside and the pan has to come back off? There's nothing worse than laying on your back underneath the car and fighting one bolt that you cross-threaded into the hole. The bolt size is a 1/4 20, and I've got a 7/32 socket, which actually fits this perfectly. So I am just going to roll this thing down in here, see if I can feel what it is. got anti-seize in there, so I'm going to use that as its own lubricant. Let's see if I can find where the problem is. Nothing yet? Oh, maybe that's it. Yeah. Okay. So we're just going to work. It feels, yeah, feels like there's a couple of threads like right at the bottom of the travel that are just not being nice. So we're just gonna run back and forth. See if we can't get a little compliance. That seems to be a spot right there. Okay. Let's see how deep that was. I might have did it. Let's find out. Yeah. Got a little bit of trash. Where's that? A little bit of trash right there on the end. Some of that's the anti-seize, but there's a little bit of junk in that. All right. So what I'm going to do is get some brake clean or something, just to spray a little something in there and then blow it out, get any debris out of there. All right, let's see if we can get just a little bit. All right. We'll cover this up and see what comes out. Messing up my pretty pan. All right. Now, anti-seize. Anti-seize. All right. Well, if you're going to build something, that's better. Yeah. If you've never worked on your car, or you have, for that matter, then you'll know. Everybody's like, yeah, you hear a bunch of people, oh yeah, replace that thing on my thing with the other thing, and I just did this, that, and it was perfect, and it went together. That never happens. I'm going to tell you right now, you're always going to run into some type of problem. This is kind of one I made for myself, because I should have really just run a tap down through some of these holes just to make sure that everything was good once I got it back from the shop. And I didn't do that, so that's on me. But problems when it comes to building things is not the exception, it's the norm. All right, I'm rambling. So the point I'm just trying to make is, if you're going to do something like this, or you're thinking about doing something like this, and you get your feet wet, expect for there to be problems. Just expect it. That way when it happens, you're not surprised. Figure it out, and you fix it, and you move on. That is what separates the men from the boys, I guess. Anyway, that is the pan. Almost forgot our fuel pump block-off plate. Don't want to forget that. Let's see. Let's get that on. We'll get our washer and nut on here first. There we go. All right, this bad boy takes 25 foot-pounds. That's kind of cool. I think what I'm going to do, like on these pins here on the front of the timing cover, end of this little stud here, try to get a little touch-up paint on those just to have them painted so they don't rust or go bad. Well, that's it for now. I got the oil pan on, front cover, fuel pump, block-off plate. Heads are next. Yeah, so that's it for now. So if you go down there, you'll see there's super like. So if you want to help out the channel, that's a good way to do that. Or head on over to my t-shirt shop. If you find something you like, money goes back into the project. That's what it's for. So appreciate you being here. Hope you learned something. See you on the next one. This is Hutch from Hutch iPerf. Take it easy.